Hello, gorgeous woman, and welcome to this exclusive and very special series of the Rebel Matriarch podcast, Mystics Unhinged. In this space, our beautiful mystics are coming forth and they are speaking unfiltered, unedited, uncensored truths that every woman needs to hear, especially you. So buckle up, get ready, and let's get started. Hello, gorgeous human beings, and welcome to the Rebel Matriarch podcast. My name is Samantha Sanford, and I'm coming to you live with a very special episode of the Mystics Unhinged with, and I wanted to just take a pause for this because I absolutely love this, the creatrix of the feminine renaissance, Chanin. Thank you so much for being here on the Mystics Unhinged series.
Thank you so much for having me here, Samantha. I've just been so excited for this whenever we talked about it, I don't know, a couple of months ago. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
Oh my goodness, you're so welcome. I do remember our conversation. You were so on board, and I feel like you're feeling there was something that's going to be birthed that's really important. And then as we've gotten to know each other over the months leading up to this conversation, I've been seeing what you've been speaking to online, and I'm like, oh my goodness, of course. She is my kind of woman. And then even just in the conversation before I hit record and you were speaking to what you're really passionate about, like the big ultimate goal, which I think is really important because funnily enough, pretty much every woman that I interview in these sessions has the same ultimate goal, which I think is a very important thing to consider. And you said, ultimately, I want every woman to love herself unconditionally. And I feel like when people hear this, it sounds nice and they think, oh yeah, well, yeah, okay, cool. That's lovely. And it's like, no. It's not just a pretty saying. There's a bit of fierceness behind that. There's a little bit of anger behind that. There's a little bit of fed upness around that. It's not just a pleasant saying anymore, like a yay woman, woohoo, hear me roar. It's like a hold up moment. And so I would love to hear a little bit about why it's so important for women to love themselves unconditionally from your experience and your perspective.
Yeah. Oh boy. So I am 57 and I come from a background of a lot of different trauma.
Hey.
Yeah.
Hello.
I had a
Yeah.
dysfunctional childhood that I think you might have read about some of it, but and sexual trauma, and I did not love myself.
Mm.
And the interesting thing too is most women, when you ask them, do you love yourself? Well, of course I do. Right. And we don't recognize all of the ways in which we don't actually love ourselves because of our conditioning, because of society, because of our ancestry and all these other things. And so for me, I spent most of my life not actually loving myself. Now, and I mean, really, ultimately, can we love ourselves unconditionally? Okay, I think that's a lofty goal. But but if it's most of the time, right? Because we're still human, and no matter how much inner work we do, there's still going to be that stuff that comes up, and we're still going to have those thoughts. Oh my gosh, I look so crappy today, But ultimately, if it's like the majority of the time, we are speaking kind thoughts to ourselves. We are treating ourselves kindly. We're not allowing people to abuse us or disrespect us. Those sorts of things. That's, gosh, for me, it was just life changing. I mean, and it's a journey, but thinking of who I was like 8 years ago, 5 years ago, it's just completely different.
So would you say that your change of heart happened around 5 years ago or so in terms of realizing how much you didn't love yourself unconditionally?
Well, yeah, right. I mean, it's been a journey, and and I was thinking about this the other day, and since I was a young teenager, like 12, 13, I have been very introspective and wondering who I am and why am I the way I am and all of these things. And I say that I don't use that word a lot, but for 45 plus years, been focused on becoming a better version of myself. Obviously not recognizing that I didn't love myself, right? But intuitively, I knew that I didn't. And I feel like I lost track of the question. Oh yeah. So 8.5 years ago, I began a very intensive journey with a mentor to help me heal my trauma holistically. And that through that journey is what really helped me to release all the different ways that I wasn't loving myself.
I love that. Are you open to sharing some of the ways that you weren't loving yourself and what you shifted?
Oh, wow. So the thing that popped in, so I am a psychic. I very much in tune with my spirits and my guidance and such. So, and I'm extremely passionate about it. So I was molested by my grandfather at a very young age. He was a very touchy-feely man and impacted all the women in the family. And I saw someone else talk about this the other day, and I was so proud of her for also voicing it. With that sexual trauma, my brain just went woo, so many different things. You get a warped perception of what love is and what you need to do to get, and I'm putting in air quotes, love. And so one of the ways that that impacted me was I became promiscuous at a young age, not necessarily going all the way, right? But letting boys kiss me, letting boys touch me. And and then that just progressed as I got older and went to college and was drunk all the time. And I mean, for me, that is the most impactful way that me not loving myself um, wreaked so much havoc on my life.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like it's something that a lot of women experience because you disassociate from your body.
Yeah,
It's no longer your body because no one modeled to you how to love yourself or love your body or what respect looks like. And
right.
so it makes sense that that was part of your journey.
Yeah.
Was there a revelation for you going through the process that you went through in terms of the healing aspect? Because I feel like a lot of women go through similar experiences and they get to a point where sometimes they're disgusted with themselves or they're angry with with themselves or they just completely ignore all of it and it's it's a hidden thing that they don't even address. And then sometimes we get to a point of like, oh my God, like, how could I do that? Why did I do that? I'm so stupid. Did you have those thoughts and those experiences for yourself about yourself?
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. Oh my gosh, yeah, especially in college and the walk of shame, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And and then as you start to become more self-aware and especially when you're going really intentionally going through that healing phase of healing the trauma, those memories start to come up. And right, and like exactly like you said, how could I do that? I was so messed up, blah 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 blah. And then it's just you just keep going. And with time, once you release the impact of that from your body, from your mind, from your spirit, and rewire the beliefs, etc., you begin to soften towards those past versions of you.
Right. There's almost like this moment of, well, of course I did that. Like, of course I made those decisions. And I'm so
Right.
proud of her because that's the literally the best that she could do at that time. She had no other outlet. No one was showing her anything. No one was supporting her. No one was guiding her. So of course she made those decisions. And I love her so much because she's the
Yeah.
reason that I am where I am now. And I could never hate her or be angry with her. And so, oh, obviously
Yeah.
it's clearly I've been through a similar journey. And for anyone that is going through their own journey or has been through their own journey, it's a really important note to understand that no choice or decision you ever made when you didn't really fully know how to act in that situation and you were disconnected from yourself and no one ever showed you how to work through this, no decision you ever made was wrong or bad. It was exactly what it needed to be. And you're a beautiful, remarkable, whole, complete, lovely, beautiful woman that
Yeah.
deserves all the love in the world. And it's an important, I think it's an important rite of passage for so many women to go through this initiation of recognizing how remarkable she was through all of those decisions. Because this is the revolution, right? This is the creation of the feminine renaissance. This is,
Yep.
the rebel matriarch era of women recognizing their power and not letting choices made under duress impact who they are today. And so I just wanted to say thank you for sharing this aspect of your story,
My
because
honor.
it's,
Someone needed to hear it. That's why it came through.
well, what's really, it's sad and it frustrates me is you said someone needs to hear it, and yet so many need to hear it because it's
Absolutely.
so prevalent amongst women. And so
It really is. And it's interesting. I'm going to say like the past 5 years, I've done the hokey pokey with talking about sexual trauma. For a multitude of reasons, and what, revealing about my grandfather. I haven't said that publicly, like on Facebook or anything yet. I've said it in a couple podcasts. But, just because of all of the fear of pushback, from my mom, maybe. I don't think she even follows me on Facebook, thankfully, but it's so important we talk about it, because for me, from all of the sessions and events I've done, and just from my inner knowing, like, this is the most, well, how do I want to phrase that? One of the most impactful things for women and what we go through. And especially in midlife, that's when I believe when we start to have all those various symptoms, it is so much about that repressed trauma. I'm going to say it's completely about the repressed trauma. That's
absolutely. And you know what? I got my own ping, and I'm oddly nervous about this because you said you've never really mentioned who the perpetrator was
right.
publicly, right? You said you mentioned it on a few podcasts, and I'm like, I've never publicly specified who my perpetrator was. And I'm like, I feel like she's calling me to name him. And I'm like, okay, I'm actually really nervous, but I'm going to do it. And I'm not going to make a big deal out of it, but I think it's part of my rite of passage in this call. And so my perpetrator was actually my mother's husband, my mother's second husband, because my father passed away, and it was my stepdad. I don't like to refer to him as my stepdad anymore.
I hear you.
That is me naming my perpetrator for the first time ever outside of like my immediate family. And so, whoa, you guys, my whole
Congratulations.
Thank you. My whole body is shaking. It's interesting. Just because I've done so much work. Yes.
Just by naming it. Yes. Or him.
Yeah. Wow, ladies, this is such an important conversation. This is not where I thought it was going to go. And yet I did ask for it to go where it needed to. And so here we are.
Yeah. I want to share something else with you, if it's okay.
Yes.
Because what I realized, so, as you know, like one of my main jams is helping women overcome generational trauma. And in my family, my mom, my aunt, my sisters, my female cousins, and even my male cousins, well, not the male cousins, but all of the women had some kind of reproductive system problem, whether it was hysterectomies, whether it was infertility, whether it, fibrocystic or fibroids, etc. All of them have it or had it. And I fully believe it is because of the sexual trauma. And when you look at statistics like the WHO, World Health Organization, 1 in 3 women in the world will get a hysterectomy by the time they're 60. And at least 1 in 3 women in the world are sexually traumatized. It's not a coincidence.
It's not a coincidence. I've got full body tingles. Well, 1 in 3 women recorded, right? But my truest belief...
And recorded, exactly.
Yeah. My truest belief is that almost every woman has experienced some sort of sexual trauma, whether it's harassment or all the way through until sexual violence. Exactly. Every woman has experienced some element of not feeling safe in the presence of mostly men and sometimes women. So I see that. Yeah. It's definitely something to consider, isn't it? And I've always
Yeah.
wondered for myself with both of my pregnancies, my cervix was unable to open. And so I had to have emergency C-sections. And I've
Oh,
always thought to myself, I wonder if it's like a trauma related response because I've had
yep,
other issues in terms of sexual experimentation around like my vagina and vulva
yep.
because of my trauma. I think they call it vaginismus. Look at me going all private, private information, you guys. Shannon, stop it. And
Have that effect.
yeah, I love that. I normally have that effect on other people, and this is meant to be about you, but obviously this needs to come through.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's been a lot of issues around those sorts of things, and I know that it's part of the trauma. And so, I guess for any woman who's experiencing concerns or medical issues around her reproductive system or her sexual organs, there's a very good chance if you have experienced sexual trauma, which you probably have, that it is linked. Is this something
Yeah.
that you personally support women through, or it's more of a conversation that you bring with women?
When I do sessions, yeah, it's absolutely addressed in virtually every woman. And the other the other thing too is I'm just like in awe. So the other thing too is it's not only about your personal experiences,
Mm-hmm.
because most women probably know at this point that you were inside your grandmother's womb.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what did your grandmother go through? Like my grandma would be like 105, I think, if she was alive. So let's go back. How were women treated then? And then she was inside her grandmother's womb, right? So it's just this generational ancestral pattern of trauma that is imprinted into our DNA. And it is an actual epigenetics. It is passed on to us. So even if you didn't have a personal experience of violence, you can still be impacted by that of your ancestors. And then if we want to talk about unity, right? Unity consciousness, and we're all connected. Like the female wound is just a universal thing that impacts every single woman, whether you have had those personal experiences or not. As you can tell, I get a little passionate about it.
Bring it all. I have these exact same conversations. I have these same beliefs. And these conversations need to be had. And I agree. We're never ever just carrying our own trauma. We're carrying generations of it, which is why I feel like these generations, like our generations, are very much cycle breakers because we have access to so much more information, knowledge, wisdom, data, case studies, you name it. And so our brains are starting
Right.
to understand the effects of generational and ancestral trauma with your beautiful gifts that you have, because you are a psychic medium, you are an energy alchemist. And
Mhm.
just quick side note for people who don't know, I feel like most people know what a psychic medium is, but what is that for you? What does that mean for you? And what does an energy alchemist mean for you?
Yeah. So when I do sessions and events for people, I hear, see, feel, perceive your hidden emotions. I hear things that were said to you when you were 5. I feel, or however I might perceive it, I feel what's going on in your body energetically, um, in your organs, in your body parts, and that of your ancestors and from all lifetimes. So sessions are very exciting.
Yes,
Because
they're not uneventful, are they?
they are not uneventful. And then on top of that, I have my soul aspect called Ishta, who comes through and has her own powerful soul language. She's very kick-ass. um, some people might refer to it as light language, but it's not something from outside of me. It's just it is me. I'm bilingual, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so between her as well, we are then, so if people are familiar with Reiki or energy healing, that is the foundation. And then it's much more cosmic than that, as far as transmuting energy, releasing what people call stagnant energy, blockages, etc. And again, it's down to a cellular level, on a soul level, across all lifetimes, timelines, and dimensions. It's not just your grandmother's Reiki. Much more than that.
Oh my goodness. Wow. So is Ishta always with you?
Always. Yeah. Yeah.
And do you associate her as a separate identity, or she's like literally you, just you on another dimension? Like, how does it work?
You could put it that way, me on another dimension, or, time's not linear. So she's just another lifetime of mine. She's from Peru. We have her whole background.
Oh,
Um, I'm happy. She likes me to not use her as a party trick, but I got that very clear one time.
yeah,
But I could, at some point, it should just do a blessing for everybody, a healing blessing for everyone too. So
I love that. Well, she is always welcome. And if she feels like
yeah,
she wants to come to the party, then we would.
yeah, she does.
I okay.
She's
I don't want her
very
to,
fierce.
I
I
don't
can
want her
feel
to
it.
ever feel like she's a party trick, and I feel like she would be like, So she would let you know, but we would love to meet her if she is willing to come through. But
Absolutely.
what I would love to deepen as she's deciding or coming through is
Yeah.
because as human beings, we have these human experiences, right? And sexual trauma is obviously a very prevalent conversation in today's conversation. And as a human being, we go through various forms of therapy and ways to address our experiences. And how do we function? How do we coexist with our trauma? How do we associate with life, right? When we bring in aspects of spirituality and, universal consciousness, and we really deepen and expand our connection to our trauma and what it represents in our day to day. And this is where, your beautiful gifts come into play. Having gone through your experiences, your traumatic experiences and your blessings, but focusing on the traumatic ones because we're here to overcome them.
Yeah.
What have your gifts taught you about the importance of the trauma, and what have your gifts taught you about what they represent on the big scheme of things, on the big scale?
So here's an interesting response to that. So a dear friend of mine who passed away was an amazing astrologer. And when she read my natal chart for me, there are different aspects of it that she said, Chanin, you came here to, in her words, be a healer. And you came here with a very detailed plan of all the things you were going to go through, all the damn trauma, right? So that I could be of the utmost benefit. I'm not a big fan of the word service, utmost benefit to others through my lived experiences. And that was, yeah, it was so cool to hear that. And, on the one hand, like, I like to believe that suffering's not necessary for growth. There are lots of different opinions around that topic. Yet at the same time, in this day and age, with where we are right now in our evolution, we need contrast. So, and like, I've been wrestling a lot with that belief myself over the past year. But I feel like that's where we are evolutionarily. Is that a word?
Yes.
Is we still need contrast to be able to grow and to understand. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel as souls, as limitless energetic beings, we don't need the contrast and we don't need to experience suffering, but we are
Yeah.
having human experiences, and our humans, in order to like experience it in the flesh and really comprehend it and understand it in human form, that's
Right.
where the duality comes in, and the polarity and the tension that we have to go through.
Yeah.
It- when did your specific gifts come online for you?
So it's interesting. I feel like lots of women like us, we had these gifts in childhood, or to some level or other, and many of us didn't recognize them or had them squashed or whatever the situation may have been. So I feel like, especially my intuition, I feel has been a lifelong thing. Sensing other people's emotions and thoughts was actually a horrible experience for me as an empath, because I thought, oh, I feel teary, because I thought that the feelings and emotions of others were mine. I
Mm,
believed that they were mine. I believed that there was something wrong with me for most of my life.
yeah.
And now I know that that's not true. I was picking up on everyone else's stuff, and I didn't know how to do anything different. So as far as now, through the when I started working with my mentor 8 years ago and clearing out all this gunk, right? Then, my channel, if we want, my channel started to clear out, and well, all past lives with the witch wound, all those sorts of things were being cleared out. And so it just has been getting stronger and stronger, new different gifts and talents popping up, and it's been quite fun.
And I can imagine intense on some points and fun on other points. And interesting that around the same time that you were starting to clear through your human experience of your trauma, you were also activating your gifts.
Yep.
I always feel like when women really start to understand the importance of not just healing, but alchemizing and transmuting, right? Not
Yes.
just our own, but understanding that it's a lineage. I know there's another word for it. I'm not even going to attempt to say it, but it's a lineage thing in terms of what we carry. And so
Yeah.
I understand the importance of women seeking help in human form, muggle help, therapy,
Yes.
counseling. And then I also really understand the importance of women seeking spiritual help, because that's where a
Absolutely.
woman's gifts, her natural gifts are activated, right?
Right.
And so you had your experience and, discovering you were a psychic medium or that you were able to sense all these things, you'd be like, what do I even do with this?
Yeah.
Did you pick up aspects of those gifts from when you were younger, and then because there was no one to model to you or guide you, you were like, well, that's just a coincidence?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And I think that that's so common, is finally understanding that in my belief system, there's no coincidences. It's all synchronicity, right? It's all part of the big plan, your blueprint, your time, whatever words you want to use.
I love that. And so since coming into your gifts and since respecting and honoring your own journey through your experiences, what are you noticing as a common thread amongst women, especially the women that you're assisting through your own body of work?
Oof. A common thread. Oh boy, there's so many. Um, I can just see this like spider web of threads, right? I feel like the biggest one, and this came in a few minutes ago. It's about forgiveness. Oof, yeah. Ooh, I just felt that. It's about forgiving. It's it's of course it's about forgiving other people, but it's about forgiving ourselves for not what X, Y, and Z, right? I mean, my husband and I got married in 2008. So this was prior to my big journey, right? Or that part of the journey. And and I went to a counselor that our shaman minister guy recommended for me, because Rick and I, that's my husband, we were having our premarital counseling the day before our wedding. We got married in Sedona up in the rocks.
Beautiful.
And this shaman, like, he's like 8 feet tall, and so we're talking, and suddenly he stood up in front of me, towering in front of me because I'm just 5'5", and he shakes his finger at me and he says, if you don't stop beating yourself up, you are going to die from cancer. And I'm sitting there, how does he know I do that? How does he know I do that? So he recommended this counselor to me, Mavis Karn, and she said to me that, and you already said it, but we all do the best we can with the knowledge we have at the time. And that was the catalyst for me, because I used to say, if you looked up guilt in the dictionary, there was my picture. And I was regularly, if not constantly, beating myself up for all the things I had done wrong or perceived that I had done wrong. And there was no forgiveness of myself. You should have known better. Think of that as, oh my God, like that's a parent thing saying to a child, right? You should have known better, or you knew better, like all that shame that comes through that we grow up with or is imprinted upon us. And so forgiveness is like circling back to it, like, I feel like that's the number one thing for women, is to forgive yourself for all the things that you didn't know.
Yeah. I think it's a really important place to land. And when you said that she said, oh, sorry, it wasn't, it was the shaman that said, if you don't stop beating yourself up, you're going to die from cancer.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like so many women need to hear this. The amount, I don't think I've ever met a woman who was not proficient at beating herself up, who was not
Totally.
proficient in shame and guilting herself.
Yep.
And then we look at the state of women's health, of anyone's health, really, but we're focusing on women. But women
Yeah.
are experiencing so many health challenges across the board. And then you come in from a young age, and then you come into your 40s, and then you're working through perimenopause and menopause and postmenopause. And then that's a massive shit show that's really unsupported. Although there are some incredible women, and I have someone I can recommend, but there are some incredible women that can support this, because it's not actually meant to be as difficult and as intense and as overwhelming as it is. But the amount of symptoms that we're carrying, the amount of, I'm just thinking the amount of, if we don't forgive ourselves, or if we don't stop beating ourselves up, we're literally making ourselves sick. And so if we were to ask everyone who listened in on this conversation, what illnesses are you addressing? Like, where are you not well in your body? And then we ask them, where are you not forgiving yourself for past actions, choices, decisions? There would be a massive correlation.
Absolutely. And I'm kind of in, I love seeing how my guidance comes in and how things tie together. And I had, I was going through, different physical problems and such. And I was going to physical therapy last fall. And because I had ignored my body, I was focusing on my spiritual, body, all of that. And my body was being very neglected. And I had a huge release when I went to physical therapy, because I had my shoulder problem, which is so common in midlife. And that was the precipice for a program I created called the Body Renaissance. And one of the main components of that program is the Ho'oponopono prayer, which is so much about forgiveness. So now I understand why that came through as one of the top 3, let's say, things that we do that, gosh, if we would stop, release all the things that cause us to not be able to do that, it would radically change our relationship with our bodies, and then spread out through the rest of our lives.
Absolutely. Now, I have discussed, and I can never say it. Can you repeat the
Ho'oponopono prayer?
Ho'oponopono prayer. I have had this conversation with another guest, and she did explain that she can't, like, you're not allowed to teach it, but you are allowed to share your experience of it. And I feel like many women would benefit from hearing your experience of it and how they could potentially utilize it in their own lives.
Yeah. I've not heard that you're not allowed to teach it. I don't have that belief. So
in that case, can you share it?
I will, because it is, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And so, like, in my program, we go through 30 different body parts and organs, and that's one of the things that we do. And it's so freeing, it's so liberating. Just even thinking about, like, it just brings so much peace and calm. And it's just something, people can utilize it however they desire. You can do it with other people, energetically, telepathically. I take people through that in other things, and for yourself, if nothing else, do it for yourself, because your relationship with yourself impacts all of your other relationships. So it's so important that, especially as midlife women, and that's the time we finally get to, if we allow it, to focus on ourselves first. Yeah. Like, that's the rebellion. Right? Is to take that time to focus on ourselves first, and eventually be able to do that without guilt. without shame, without all those other things that we claim.
Absolutely. What are the intentions behind, "I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you"?
What are the intentions behind it?
Intentions. Yeah, so when we're saying those words, what are we intending, or what's the purpose of them, or how is it impacting ourselves or our lives or the people that we're there to release?
Yeah. So thinking of the body in particular, as that's so much about midlife and menopause and perimenopause, it's the body. It's about so much it's body. Um, we're so mean to our bodies. We have grown up. We've been trained to be mean to our bodies, to judge our bodies, to hate our bodies, to abuse our bodies. And so with the Ho'oponopono prayer, I'm sorry for whatever it is, my throat, right? For all the ways in which I suppressed my voice. Please forgive me. Thank you for all the times that, that that you did allow me, or rather that I allowed you to speak and, whatever that is, set boundaries or tell people I love you, whatever that may be. And then of course, I love you. Love is the number one healing, whatever we want to call it, vibration act,
Frequency.
feeling, frequency. Thank you. There's the word, duh, that there is. So you have all those different components, and it really, at the end of the day, it's about love, but those different steps. And when you think about each of those, I'm sorry, what does that mean? What are you sorry for? You don't have to think about it, the exact thing. It's just the words itself are so powerful. But I do like to have an intention. I want to heal the relationship with, my mother, for instance. And you go through that and you picture her, or however you want to do it. I've had so many very cool experiences with it.
I can only imagine, even just hearing you share that example with your throat, it landed for me more deeply than it has any other time that I've come across the experience. Cause it's like, oh, I get it now. I get it now. Because people just sort of talk, they just sort of say, "I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you." And the words, I understand, have meaning, and they feel good and releasing, but sharing that example, I think, is going to give women a lot of opportunity to spend time with themselves and that practice. And I encourage, in fact, I like triple double dare you to spend 5 minutes in front of the mirror and just the thing that's triggering you the most or frustrating you the most about yourself in whatever capacity, doing that practice that Shannon just shared, and just watching the release come through. Because even just hearing you speak to it, I was feeling emotional, because I was like, the amount of times that I've like self-abused,
Yeah.
right? Because we shame, we guilt, we're not perfect. Like, mm, thank
Yeah.
you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for deepening that. I love this. And so in your practices with the women that you're supporting, do you bring through your mystical gifts in aiding that as well? Because you talked about breaking generational trauma and things like that, releasing that from the body.
Yeah.
What does that actually look like or feel like for a woman?
um, so it's a different experience, obviously, for everyone. So it depends greatly on one's uh, ability to perceive the energy. I remember one lady, I thought it was so cool. She was having some liver pain, and so I was doing just energy. I work with the violet flame. I work with angels and dragons. I work with a lot of different beings, and the light source. And she perceived like plugs coming out of her liver, dark. And so it's different for everyone. They might have physical sensations as I'm doing different things. They very often will cry as we're releasing the energies. A lot of people, because I'm also working on the subconscious mind, um, they'll fall asleep because whatever's coming through, they don't need to hear to heal. And so their mind just checks out. And then the healing happens. And then they get a recording and then they can hear it, which then also amplifies it because they're also bringing now to their conscious mind the awareness, right, of what was being released. And peace and calm, more lightness, more confidence, and all kinds of different things, improved relationships. One current client, she has a custom program. She told me the other day how much her relationship with her mom had improved because so many women have bad relationships with their mother. um, and I was so ecstatic because she had a really bad relationship with her mom. I was like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. And it was about her shifting. It wasn't about anything about her mom. It was about her shifting. And then also healing the lineage because there was a lot of mother-daughter problems, going back many generations.
Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like a lot of women currently have mother wounding. They're experiencing some variation of mother wound, whether
Yeah.
they're still in relationship with their mother or not. So I'm disconnected from my mother, but then I know a lot of women that still have a relationship with their mother, but it's very tense and it's
Yeah.
very not really honest and pure and real. So
Yeah.
I feel this. And so it's really interesting when you said that even though this woman has had a tumultuous relationship with her mother, that she's now experiencing something more honest and real and connected. And
Yeah.
so for women who are experiencing mother wounding, and gosh, there are so many, and it's not that our mothers are bad people. They've made very bad choices with the limited information that they have. I feel like the reason why so many women are disconnected from their mothers is because as adults, we have conversations with them wanting to repair something and they're unwilling to actually make a different
Yeah.
choice in the now. So it's like, we can accept what you did then, knowing that you did what the best that you could, but I need you to actually step up now. And they don't know how to step up. And so that's why there's a lot of discord. And yeah. Are you
Yeah.
feeling this? Is that something that you're experiencing a lot?
Yeah, definitely. And I remember one of the first times I did an intuitive reading outside of a full session. Um, I got all this information, that was coming through to the client. And afterwards, I sent her the recording and she said, it didn't really resonate with me, but it sounds a lot like my mom. So she messaged her mom, and her mom said that she had been up in the middle of the night sick for a few hours. And when she woke up, she felt like a different person. So the point of me telling you that is manyfold, but also the power of generational healing. What we do for ourselves, we are doing for our lineage backwards and forwards. So it's not only about you when you are working on yourself. I don't like that word working on, but when you are doing your work, your inner healing, whatever you want to call it, you are also helping your lineage. And that was several years ago. And I just was so blown away because I hadn't had that experience yet as in my business. I was like, so cool. And I think that was probably what really, really got me so excited about generational healing, aside from my own family. And I could give lots of stories about different things that have happened there. But yeah, it's so cool.
I would, yeah, it is. This question's twofold because I would actually love to hear some of your experiences with your own family, because I feel like
Mm,
women, it lands for women when we hear experiences or examples. And
yeah.
then when you say, when we're, working on ourselves, or we're doing the work for ourselves,
Yeah.
we're also healing generational ancestral trauma. I know for myself, I understand that ethically, that's the word. Like, I understand that from an energetic sense. But
Yeah.
sometimes I'm like, okay, but how does that actually work? Like, and so if you could share a little bit around how it actually works and then share some of your examples, that would be amazing.
You know, quite honestly, I don't know. It's magic. As my husband's, what does my husband say? It's PFM, pure fucking magic. It
I
just,
love that. PFM,
right?
guys. PFM.
PFM. It's just PFM. But what you look at the energetics, right? It's about it. Everything's about energy. It all starts in energy. And I mean, that's my explanation of it. It's energy. You could also maybe perceive perhaps there's some soul contracts involved if one believes in that. But one of my favorite stories is maybe 7, 8 years ago. My dad passed away a long time ago, 36 years ago. And my mentor, I had said there were some synchronicities. I'm like, I think my dad is around because it was about the time of the anniversary of his death. And she's like, yes, and he's here. And he 2 different times he came through. And he first said he was so grateful. Ooh, he was so grateful to me for doing the work that I was doing because I was helping him. I was helping his soul by doing what I was doing to heal. The other time he came through, he apologized for passing on his anger to me and my sisters. And as I explored that with my aunt who was alive and talking with my mom, like there was so much anger passed down in that family on both sides. And it just, it gets passed down energetically, it gets passed down genetically, it gets passed down through the environment, our learned experiences. So like, yeah, those were two very cool communications from my dad. And I didn't perceive myself as an angry person, but then once I heard that and I started evaluating my life, I'm like, oh heck yeah, I've been
It's called
extremely,
repressed anger.
and that is so huge for women.
Yes.
And talking about what I call the female wound, and in our womb space, right? Just all the oppression and the patriarchy, et cetera, et cetera. Like we have this suppressed rage. And that as well is what I believe is a huge catalyst to the physical and emotional symptoms that we have when we get to midlife, because we have all of this anger, and it's at some point it's got to come out. And if we don't release it, as my shaman minister said, it is going to turn into some kind of physical disease, most likely. I can't guarantee it, but that's the way
Yeah.
it is.
I guess like it's kind of the spiritual combining with the physical when it comes to like perimenopause and menopause, right? Because rage is a huge symptom of it. And it aligns with our physical body and our like
Yeah.
actual physicality changing, our hormones and everything are changing. And so we give less fucks. And then all of a
Yes.
sudden this repressed rage. And it's like, well, actually, we don't have to have a rageful experience in perimenopause and menopause. It's just because we've never had an outlet for it and we've been taught to repress it. And then we're
Yeah.
carrying thousands of years of repressed anger and rage in our
Exactly.
bodies.
Exactly. There's been one time it was unintentional and one time intentional with my mom's mom, the molester grandfather,
Mm.
um, where I released through my body her rage. The first time I was like, what the heck is this? And then I got my answer. And then another time I did it intentionally. And then I also did it for my dad's mom as well, because of all the anger, right, that was passed down through there. Um, it's very cool. I've said that many times, the cool word, but that's just, it is. I just love it.
Well, it is because when you go through the process of releasing the rage and the anger, whether it's yours or intentionally somebody else's, what happens after?
Oh my gosh. The release of and the relief and the joy and I just the forgiveness that comes through. Like I felt the forgiveness come through, for my grandma towards my grandpa, and her gratitude to me for being that cycle breaker, for being the person who has come along who can help heal um this family line of all this stuff.
Mm,
I get that a lot in sessions where people's ancestors come through and they're just so grateful to the person for doing the work. You were, like my dad said, you were helping to heal me.
I love that. I've had my dad come through a few times and say similar things. And
Have
it's really
you?
special, isn't it? Because you're like,
Yeah.
okay. Because even though there may be people like there's no one really in my physical family that really said that no one's ever said that. They don't really understand what it is
Right.
that I'm doing. And they're like, why? Like, can we not just like move on from it? And it's like, no, no, no. And so when someone comes through and they're like, oh, thank you. And you're like, oh, okay, someone actually recognizes what I'm doing and how hard it is.
Yeah.
So I say thank you to your dad, because I feel like he's a guiding force behind the work that you're doing, which is so important. And
thank you.
When you were talking about what comes through once you've expressed or experienced your rage and your anger, the word that came through for me was also clarity, because once you release what's no longer held in your body or no longer yours, you're like, hang on a minute, I actually don't want to do this thing, or actually I don't like that person, or actually I don't want to be doing this job anymore, or actually I don't want to, be in this relationship anymore. Hang on a minute. It's like all this clarity comes through because
sovereignty.
One of my favorite words.
Yes.
It's one of my favorite words. And it's a word that when I first started hearing it, I had to look it up. Like, what does that mean? And it still didn't land, sovereignty. Yeah. It took a few years of really understanding it. And it's something I want every woman to know, because we're sovereign in our bodies. We're sovereign in our choices. We're sovereign in all aspects of life. And when we are, well, we become a threat to the patriarchy, which is what I'm here for. So
exactly.
I love that. I love it so much.
Yeah.
With your beautiful gifts, and if Ishta has something to share, it would be amazing to hear what do women need to hear today, and furthermore, because people are going to be listening to this podcast in the future, what do we really need to hear in this moment to really activate the matriarchal leader within us, so that we're here to create a different future and a different now as well?
Yeah. So what we will do is I will let her speak in her language. And then if I have a translation in English, I will provide it, but our souls know. But the one thing that's definitely coming through is your voice is needed. It is time. Okay. It is time for you to reclaim your voice. It is time for you to do this, not only for your own well-being, but for that of your children, your nieces, your nephews, because let's not exclude the men, the boys too, right? The work we are doing is not just about women, it's about humanity. So this is a channeling that's coming through. And to also, yes, to please be kinder to yourself, to be more loving and softer to yourselves, more loving to yourselves. That also is important, because you are the role model for, depending on what stage of life you're in, your children or your grandchildren. They are learning how to treat themselves through the way in which you treat yourself. So that is what just came flowing through. And now I'll just do a blessing from Ishta. Menaki sarana koreana, to kushi larana moya, lerana kasara no shoria, makotoria. Oh, if you only could see yourself through her eyes, through the eyes of God or the goddess, you would be so much kinder to yourself. Mo sharanakiana, tu katia nanamodia, nana katorana sia, shoya moka, yamankatia sarana shoya, ena mokotiana. All about love for ourselves, love for others, sharing love, being love, emanating love. Menakis eshoranasian. That is complete.
Yeah. Isn't that beautiful? Thank you, Ishta, as well.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. If every woman could see themselves through the eyes of God or the goddess or the goddesses,
yes,
that one struck a chord for me. Because I feel like every woman can see other women through those eyes, but when they see themselves, it's a different lens.
Yeah.
So for women who can see this in other women but not in themselves, do you have words of wisdom, or do you have a message for them on how they can start to learn to look through the lens of the goddess when they see themselves?
Oh, a couple things. So about 6 years ago, I started doing these intuitive drawings unexpectedly.
Of course.
And one of them, what it ended up being, once I got finished with it, it had shapes and words and such. It looked like a kaleidoscope. And I even wrote in it the eyes, like I was drawing eyes, and then I realized it was the eyes of love. And so if you think of a kaleidoscope and you just shift it just a smidgen, and the whole view changes, right? So what can you do today? What practice can you implement today to begin to just shift that kaleidoscope one smidge so that you see yourself differently? So it can be just staring in the mirror and saying, I love you. You're effing amazing. You are gorgeous. You deserve love. You deserve kindness. You deserve peace. You deserve better. And whatever else comes through. But looking oneself in the eyes, and it can be really uncomfortable in the beginning. And so it's just persist. But as you start to do that, and I'm not a huge fan of affirmations alone, but I don't perceive this as affirmations. This is different. This is you talking to you in the mirror, and feel the sensations in your body when you say these things. Are you feeling tense? Are you feeling like light? Most often you'll start off feeling tense, like this feels weird and this feels like a lot, and all those things. And just find that practice, whatever it is for you, to speak kindly to yourself, because and notice when you're not. And the more you pay attention, the more you will notice when you're not. And then you just say something kind. You know, it's just shifting, it's rewiring those neural pathways a little bit at a time. That's the easiest thing you can do for free. Just to begin to shift the kaleidoscope, shift your view of yourself.
I love that. I love that. It's something literally I've only just started doing, and I highly recommend it. And people might think it's, doesn't that make me crazy? And I'm like, no, actually it doesn't. But talking about, speaking to yourself in the mirror, and saying kind things to yourself, as a frazzled, frantic, overwhelmed mother, I'm on constantly making mistakes, doing the wrong thing, forgetting things, all the rest of it. And I will
Yeah.
quite easily, berate myself in my mind. And then I've
Yeah.
started doing this thing where I'm like, "Oh, it's okay, Sam. Like, you're okay. Like, of course, you're stressed. You're overwhelmed, honey. It's okay, sweetie. Like, just give myself a
Yeah.
little bump on the arm and just saying, it's like, we'll make it right, or whatever it is. And I'm like, I'm literally out loud speaking to myself, like murmuring to myself as I'm in the fridge doing something for the kids. It's just like, I feel ridiculous, but at the same time, I feel really loved, because I'm like, oh, it's actually really special being kind to yourself. And so I love that women are being invited to have these conversations with themselves in the mirror. And then I want to layer that with, have a conversation with yourself in the moment as well, of like, just give
Yes.
yourself a little, pat on the arm and just be like, girl, it's okay, honey. Like, it's okay. We got this. Like, of course you made that mistake. It's not that big a deal. We can fix this, whatever it is.
Absolutely. And like I said too, when you are a mom and you've got kids at home and you're doing that, you, even though they might think you're crazy at the time, right? And they may even say so. My kids are much older, and it's been cool to have them reflect back things I told them in the past that they thought, oh, mom, you're so blah, blah, blah. But you're setting that example for them by talking kindly to yourself.
Yeah, you
And
model
it's
the
so
goddess.
important.
How has your relationship with your children changed since you started
Mm.
releasing your trauma and the generational aspects of it as well, and stepping into your gifts as well?
Yeah. So my oldest son, that relationship has not improved. He thinks I'm cuckoo, and that's okay. That's his journey.
Yeah.
Plus he's in the army and he doesn't live nearby. But my other two kids in particular, I definitely feel like it's improved. And it's been fun too. Like in the past, my daughter, like I would offer to do sessions and she's like, oh no, 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 no. And now she's like, yes, would you please? Right? Like, yes,
Yeah.
that is fine. That would be great. And my son, my other son, I remember I offered it to him quite a while ago, and he was like, Mom, that would be like you doing a prostate exam on me. Because he knows I'm psychic and I'm going to hear all of his stuff, right? But yeah, with my other two kids, those relationships have definitely improved. My relationship with my husband, oh my gosh, that has really improved so
How so?
much
How so?
because I love myself, right? I love myself now, and I can receive love from him. I can receive the kindness without feeling guilty, without feeling like I need to pay it back, et cetera, et cetera. And I mean, yeah, I could go on about that.
Could you actually, if your husband doesn't mind, because so many of us are in relationships or with ended relationships because we're not ourselves and we don't love ourselves. And so,
Yeah.
we may have ended our relationship because of money or lack of communication, or someone had an affair, or there's a whole lot of reasons. And if both parties came to a relationship and they absolutely loved themselves, the the dynamics of the relationship would be different, and the trajectory of the relationship would be different. I saw you were like something came through. So
Right. Well, I was thinking, and this was when we first started dating, 20 years ago, and I was still all steeped in my trauma. And I would lash out, anger, 0 to 60, reactivity. And he would would say, can't you just stop and think? Don't, can't, like, why do you have to react? And, and I don't do that 99.999% of the time anymore. Right. I have control over my emotions. But, but when we get to a certain level of healing, it's no longer about even needing to control them, because we are not angry anymore. We've released the anger. There's no need to lash out because you're not angry. You can see it from his point of view. For me, I could see he wasn't attacking me. He wasn't trying to hurt me. He wasn't trying to belittle me or ignore me or neglect me or any of those things that I expected was going to happen, because that was my conditioning from my trauma. And when I no longer expect crappy behavior from him, that wall is gone, and I can receive all the kind things that he wants to do for me. I mean, gosh, it's just, yeah, it's night and day. Um, yeah. I mean, we can have fun, we can laugh. And and he's even starting to allow me to do things for him because he's got his own stuff. Um, yeah, but yeah, and I think too, as women, depending on what our life circumstances were, we don't allow people to help us. I can do it myself. No one else can do it as good as I can. Thinking the kids folding the towels type of thing. And so we take on all this responsibility. We don't allow anyone to help us, partly because we don't want to be perceived as weak. The weak feminine who needs someone to save her, bullshit. We allow people to help us. And that has been a huge thing for me. I don't have that hyper independence anymore, the hyper independence or the hyper vigilance.
it's like these. I don't know why, but you mentioned your son was in the army, and I just think of those the sacks, the heavy,
Yeah, the rucksacks.
the
Yeah,
rucksacks that they carry with all this stuff in it. And you
yeah,
say, hyper independence and hyper vigilance, and it's like these two massive sacks. And I was like, you said that, I'm like, I just wanted to drop them, and I'm done. Like, I'm so tired, and I feel like so many women are like feeling so tired because I feel like
yeah.
they have to carry the hyper independence and hyper vigilance, whilst also being perfect, whilst also making sure everyone else is taken care of, whilst also contributing financially, whilst also whilst also Whilst also
Exactly.
somewhere in there, like, you know, trying to look after themselves at the bare minimum, and even that's not being met.
Exactly. And, you know, a very common physical problem in midlife is the frozen shoulder. And it's because we're carrying the weight of the world on our shoulders. Like it makes so much logical sense to me. You know, like when I had my PT working on my left shoulder, because the left side is the feminine side, right? The mother side. That's where most of my problems are, left side. Like for me, what I released at that time was the betrayal and rejection. But, but the betrayal was so much me betraying myself and rejecting myself at that point. I dealt with all the other stuff. This was about me betraying myself and rejecting myself.
I feel like it's something that every woman does,
Yeah,
sacrificing themselves,
absolutely.
betraying themselves at what cost? But everyone
Yeah,
else is looked after, taken care of,
yeah,
content, satisfied, maybe happy. A lot of the
yeah.
times we do so much rejection and betrayal to ourselves so that everyone can have a mediocre experience. Like they're not thriving, they're like they they're they're content, and it's like, what am I sacrificing myself for?
Yeah,
Good
right.
question. What are you sacrificing yourself for? I love
Yeah.
this. Is there is there a way for women to deepen this work with you? Especially the anger is such a big one. We've touched on that so many times in various ways. The releasing
Yeah.
of the anger is so huge. Are there ways
Yeah.
for women to work with you and release anger?
Yeah, absolutely. So it just came through this week, is for women who want to dip their toes, right? And get a brief experience with me. I'm offering a 90-minute intensive, and we can focus on what she knows she wants to focus on, or I can tune in and find out what the real root thing is that's going on, because we usually don't really know what that is.
I
The
love
other,
that clarification because it's so true, right? We think we know what the
yeah.
problem is, and then it's like, yes,
Yeah, I mean, 95%, you know, of our actions are driven by um or our thoughts are from our subconscious, right? So and our beliefs. The other is the body renaissance, which is a 30-day journey through 30 different body parts and organs. Yeah, so that encompasses everything, all of my gifts and talents. There's like 14 different things. It's sound healing, it's toning, it's energy, it's affirmations, it's there's so much there. The one woman in there in particular has been having phenomenal experiences, which has been so much fun. So there's that. And then there is the feminine renaissance, and that will have 3 different entry points depending on a woman's, you know, comfort level with investment and time. um so yeah, and the feminine renaissance is a 6-month program. That's the premium one. And that 2 months on the body, 2 months on emotions, and 2 months on spirit. So it's
the
all
Trinity.
encompassing.
Yeah, the Trinity. I love this. This
Yeah.
is incredible. This is amazing. I love that you're offering this work. Thank you so much. And thank you so
Thank you.
much for having this very important conversation with me and us today, and for our live audience for receiving, as well
Yeah.
as everyone who's going to be watching this at a later date. I would love to ask you if there's anything else that you feel needs to come through for the women who are going to be listening to this.
Hmm. So it's actually, it feels like it's kind of a challenging question. Let me listen. It's about freedom. You know, I didn't wear my fire horse earrings, but it's the year of the fire horse. And it's about freedom. And so how much longer are you going to keep yourself in chains? It's up to you.
Mm,
It's just a simple question, because you get to choose. And I know there are a lot of women who don't feel that they can, and I understand that. If we're looking at abusive situations and such, right? But for women who are in a position to choose differently, now is the time. No one can do it for you. It's spirits. I feel it.
Bring it. Please, please,
Right?
please bring it. Yeah.
It's no one can do it for you. Only you can change your life. And it's time for you to, now that you've heard all these wonderful podcasts, right, with Samantha and all the wisdom that has come through, you know better. You know better. So if you want to have a different life, you have to make the choice or stop griping about it. That was not from me. That was from my guidance. That felt so harsh to say.
Oh, I'm simmering in this one. And I thank your guidance and you for speaking the truth, because I know how uncomfortable it is. But this has literally been my path of like radical self-responsibility. And when you know better, you must choose to do better, or you suffer the consequences. And if you choose to suffer the consequences, I don't want to hear about it, because I don't have time for this. And so your choice, yes. However, consequences, go over that side, exit stage left. If you're going to do the work and you're actually going to make a choice, right? I'm here for it.
Yeah.
I will support you. Chanin will support you. There are so many people that will hold space for you. But I love this radical responsibility, because the excuse I hate the most is she did the best that she could. He did the best that she could. It was an experience. I get that. However, that experience is done. And now what are we doing about it? Because we know that that was wrong. You know what I mean? Like it's.
Yeah.
So thank you for bringing that fierceness to this.
You're welcome. I feel like I was channeling my husband. My husband has said that to me in the past. Either do something about it or stop complaining to me.
Right? I feel like everyone has had an experience of a family member or a friend or an acquaintance who loves to bitch and moan and complain, and they're like, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And you invest so much time and energy and effort to like hearing them and seeing a bigger picture and sharing some genuine advice and wisdom and like a true clear pathway and opportunity. And then they just don't even want it, they don't actually want to do anything. They just want to whinge and complain and hear their own voice. And so you're like, get out. We're not having this conversation anymore. Boundaries.
Exactly.
I love this so much. Chanin, thank you so much for this really beautiful, profound conversation. I truly believe it's going to impact a lot of women so deeply. And thank you for sharing your beautiful gifts and being unfiltered, especially right at the end. That made me so happy for you to say that. And I acknowledge your courage to say it, because I know that I genuinely know how hard it is to say things like that. And yet women are ready to hear it, because we're not weak. We're not docile. We're strong, capable women, and we need to hear these words. So
thank you, Samantha. This has just been such an honor and so much fun. And for me, like I'm excited to see where this is going to go for me, personally and professionally, because I've been wanting to have this conversation. I feel a little teary. I've been wanting to have this conversation regularly. And I feel like I'm finally in a position, I'm finally in my own evolution, feeling safe enough to talk about it, because it needs done. So thank you for providing the platform to do so.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome. And our audience members are saying thank you as well. And
yes. Thank you. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Louise, for being here.
Thank you, beautiful women. Thank you all so much for holding space for this incredible conversation. And I look forward to this being received by the beautiful women who are meant to receive it.
Same.
Thank you for being here, gorgeous woman, for rising with us, remembering with us, and refusing to shrink inside a world that benefits from your silence. If this episode moved you, cracked you open, or reminded you of who the hell you are becoming, share it with a woman who is ready to rise too. I want to invite you to follow, subscribe, and leave a rating so this message becomes too loud, too wild, and too undeniable to be ignored. The movement grows because of women like you. Women who choose truth over comfort, liberation over obedience, and voice over disappearance. You can connect with me, Samantha Sanford, at Rebel Matriarch, and all links to our guest are in the show notes below. Until next time, stay rooted, stay rebellious, and remember, the world changes when women refuse to disappear.